This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, from Philadelphia to Erie and from Scranton to Pittsburgh, it is Behind the Headlines. I'm Charlie Greenewald, Senior Fellow at the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy, and I'm joined by Mar Donnelly, my host. Mar, welcome.
Hello, Charlie.
Well, we have elections coming up here in the near future.
We do. Some big ones. Some big ones.
And there's certainly no shortage of drama on Capitol Hill in Harrisburg, but in Capitol Hill in Harrisburg as well.
Yeah,
and how does that impact us?
It's going to be an interesting 2020.
It sure is.
I can make that prediction now.
That's a bold prediction.
Yes.
And what better person to talk about 2020 than Gene Barr, the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry. Gene, welcome back to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Why, your organization is so important in Pennsylvania's public policy landscape. You make a huge difference in terms of helping the state government sort of recognize where are the right places to go, what are the things that we need to do to bolster our economy. What are some of the things that you've been working on recently that the Chamber is most concerned about? What would be your number one priority, Gene?
Boy, that's a loaded question because there's a lot. I mean, the first one, of course, which I think we've talked here a little bit in the past, has been workforce development. It's in our number one. The governor has made it, to his credit, has made it his chief priority right now, coming out of the box earlier this year in his budget address. And it's the one that our members tell us is the biggest concern. That was reiterated just a couple of months ago in our annual economic survey, which I know you're familiar with from having been at the Chamber, in which they told us that was the one that tested out the highest again as well, finding people to fill the available jobs. So we've been working on that. We meet every Tuesday with this Workforce Command Center that the governor asked me to co-chair. So we've been working on that. And interesting, it's, I hate to say this, it's maybe even a little more complex than we originally thought. You kind of think about workforce, you go, well, let's go find 10 welders to do that job or 10 engineers to do this. The problem is what we're identifying are various barriers. People would like to work but don't have transportation. Many of us take for granted the fact we go out, the car starts, and we drive off to work, or we walk out and get the bus or the train. For many people, that's not how that works.
Especially in rural
Pennsylvania.
Exactly,
especially in rural areas. Child care is another one. We're having people say, I'd like to work, but I don't have anybody to watch my child, because a lot of times the family support system is broken down. Criminal justice issues are big. And interestingly, what I'm hearing, sometimes it's as simple as, I would like to go on that job interview, but I don't have anything appropriate to wear. So how do we address those situations? So it involves a whole lot, and is kind of, I hate to say, a daunting task, but it's going to take us a while. But I believe we can get to a point where we can advertise our workforce as a significant attraction for other people. We can make it a competitive advantage if we do this right.
How are you organizing this effort with the regional chambers?
Well, of course, we always work with our local chamber partners, and some of them have actually been in this world for a long time. So part of what we're trying to do is identify who's doing a really good job on workforce within their communities. And there's a lot that are doing really good stuff out there. And can we adopt what they're doing and advertise it statewide to say, hey, here's what Hanover or Lancaster or Center County has done. Can we advertise that and say, here's something that maybe will work for you in your area?
Yeah, some
that
best
you can
practices.
Adopt. Trying to adopt best practices, because there's good stuff going on out there. But a lot of times it's just not known statewide.
Oh, well, that's pretty interesting. Does our economy impact sort of the workforce at this point?
It does.
There's jobs, but
there's jobs and not people to fill them. And the other problem, I hate to say this, is demographics. And someone said to me the other week, and it's true, demographics is destiny, and unfortunately Pennsylvania is old, getting older, and our population of young people to fill those jobs is declining. The other thing that's a problem, and it's a problem nationwide, is something called the labor participation rate. We always hear about the unemployment rate. That's people who want a job. How about the people who aren't looking, who should be in the workforce, but for various reasons, able-bodied, otherwise, are not out there? Some of it's related to drug addictions. The opioid issue is a major one in keeping people out of the workforce. So our goal is to get people, as I've said, off the sidelines and into the game. So how do we accomplish that to fill these jobs?
How are you doing that in regard to the opioid situation? Have you been working with the Department of Health?
Great question. The governor has had his own opioid command center in attempting to make some inroads, because first, it's an incredible human tragedy in this Commonwealth, in this country, but it is a workforce issue. And they're trying to address that by cutting down on, working with medical professionals, hospitals, et cetera, to attempt to limit, because look, these opioids do have a valid medical rationale for use. So how do we limit that to that and try and knock out the addiction and the unauthorized uses is a major issue for all of us.
Well, Charlie mentioned our political landscape.
Yes.
We're coming off the heels of a recent election, and we had some flip-flopping going on in the Philly suburbs, the Pittsburgh suburbs.
Sure did.
What do you think, first of all, what's your impression of the elections that just passed, and how do you think that's going to impact 2020 elections?
Great question. I think it largely continues the trend we've seen in recent years. I'm from Delaware County originally, so I grew up down there. So for the first time, literally since the American Civil War, Delaware County is controlled by Democrats. Literally the Civil War. And so now what is reversed in about a 10-year period is all of the collar counties, Bucks, Chester, Montgomery, and Delaware County, are now firmly in Democrat hands. Conversely, in this election, continued another trend out west. 3 counties out west are now under Republican control.
Right.
It's something that we've seen for quite a while now, which is the western part of the state that has voted in many cases for the Republican in the presidential are now making those changes in the courthouse, at the state Senate, and the state House side. And so I think the Republicans are going to look to continue to play on that. And of course, the Democrats will continue to try and make gains in the Southeast.
What do you attribute some of these changes to? I mean, we've been seeing it's been rolling in that direction, but solidly.
Yeah, I mean, out west, as someone out there has told me, the western part of the state, even Democrats are pro-life, pro-gun, and pro-labor. I think you're seeing that. I think the comments that Mayor Peduto made about we don't need another cracker, the heck with these jobs. He didn't say this, I'm paraphrasing. The heck with these jobs that pay $100,000 a year. I think that's driving a wedge between some of the traditional allies on the Democrat side.
That's been so good for the economy out there.
Absolutely.
That, for him to come out and say, let's make these jobs go away, basically. Again, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
That's bad. I mean, it's just people are seeing that.
Absolutely. And people kind of pejoratively judge them. Well, these labor jobs, all these trade jobs, they're just temporary. And what they will tell you is, we make our living on temporary jobs. Yeah. We move from site to site to site to site to site, which means we have to continue to have this investment. When the mayor of Pennsylvania's second largest city sends a signal that we're not interested in your investment, that's a real negative. Mm-hmm. And I think you're seeing that play out. The first people to attack Mayor Peduto's comment were the labor unions.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I wonder what would be happening if Senator Hines was still around.
Well, I don't think he would have said anything like that. But the reality is, he said, well, we have to clean up Pittsburgh's air. Pittsburgh air is cleaner now than it was 5 years ago. It'll be cleaner in 5 years than it is now.
I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. It's
immensely
remarkably better than it was when I was
remarkably better,
in
including
school there.
CO2 emissions are down.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which. I know that the Chamber's looking at Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative.
Yes.
Affectionately referred to as RGGI.
Maybe affectionately. It's referred to as RGGI.
Referred to as
Correct.
RGGI. Where does Pennsylvania stand when it comes to that? Other states have joined into the initiative?
Basically, all the states around us are in.
Okay.
From north of us, east and down into Maryland, Delaware, et cetera. Virginia is kind of in a weird place right now. New Jersey was in, then out. They're coming back again.
Well, let's start with
Let's talk about what it is.
It
is an initiative of the Mid-Atlantic and the New England states to cooperatively work together to reduce CO2 emissions. Now, it has been around for 10 or 15 years or longer. It's not a new initiative. These other states have been in a long time. And previous governors, despite being invited to do so, and they include both Democrat and Republican governors up to this point, have said, no, we don't want to join because it's not good, in their view, it was not good for Pennsylvania. The reason it's not good for Pennsylvania is we are an energy exporter. We provide, in many cases, the energy to all those other states that have undertaken this initiative. At the same time, and in fact, when you look at the total emissions from all of the RGGI states roughly equal Pennsylvania's CO2 emissions because of the energy that we produce.
Well, particularly when you have New York banning fracking and Pennsylvania fracking.
Which is a whole other question that we have about whether we should join RGGI. The governor here, Governor Wolf has indicated his intention to proceed to join the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. We certainly have questions about that. But I think it's also interesting to note that the U.S. is the only industrialized country to have reduced CO2 emissions in recent years. The only one. Pennsylvania, along with that, has reduced as well. To a large degree, that has come from shifting from burning coal to generate electricity to natural gas. Of course, we still have our nuclear. We did have an unfortunate circumstance with TMI closing. It had been down to one for a while. But so we have a lot of questions about whether or not this will make sense for Pennsylvania. We want to get those questions.
Yeah, what does it mean
asked.
to join?
It means to join. You will join, and there will be votes on measures that are designed to force reductions in CO2.
Okay.
So, and Charlie, you bring up a great point. Suppose we join, and I know people have said, well, this is not an anti-natural gas, but you have New York and New Jersey that have taken very definitive anti-natural gas / fossil fuel period undertake. What if they say Pennsylvania needs to stop building its infrastructure because you're enabling the utilization of fossil fuel? What if that happens?
And
then we have an issue.
To join this, the legislature is going to have to approve it.
Well, see, that's another interesting point. There's a lot of discussions as to whether or not the governor can do this by executive order, promulgate regulations, et cetera. Now, this creates money because you basically price carbon by the ton. So it creates money. The legislature clearly has to create a bill that would spend those dollars. The dollars would go out of PA and come back in because it's based on dollars per ton. But there's some real legal question as to what position and what ability the governor has to do this. So that's we're watching all of those. A lot of other questions. I mean, these other states have banked credits for a long time. So are they going to get to use their credits even though we weren't in? Are we going to get credit for all the years of CO2 reductions that we've had? What are they going to use for our what's called baseline? That is, you have to reduce X% off your baseline. Is our baseline 5 or 10 years ago, or is it 2019 or 20?
It sounds like we're going to have Gene back to see what's going on.
How many other regional state associations are there of this sort, Gene?
Well, Reggie, I think, is the only one. I mean, California is its own deal, but Reggie, as I said, includes all the New England states and most of the Mid-Atlantic states. So it's a pretty big association of states, but again, we differ because we are the only energy exporter out of all those states. So we have different circumstances and different considerations we have to do before we opt to move into something like this. What are the costs to Pennsylvania residents? What are the costs to Pennsylvania business? Because right now, we've got the energy here, and so we have to be cautious about what steps we take for this.
Okay. Gene, thank you very much for bringing us and our viewers up to date, and we do have to have you back, if for no other reason than to stay abreast of Delaware County.
We can try that, absolutely, sure.
Okay. Thank you, Gene.
Thanks.
We'll be back right after this. Stay tuned.
Behind the Headlines is brought to you as a public service by the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, the largest, most influential municipal association in the Commonwealth. Since 1921, PSATS has been preserving and strengthening township government and securing greater visibility and involvement for townships in the state and federal political arenas. Covering 95% of Pennsylvania's land mass, townships represent 5.5 million residents, more than any other type of political subdivision in Pennsylvania. Behind the Headlines is also brought to you by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, helping hospitals provide healing, health, and hope to communities across the state. And by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry. The Pennsylvania Chamber serves as the frontline advocate for business on Pennsylvania's Capitol Hill by influencing the legislative, regulatory, and judicial branches of state government. Additional underwriting provided by the Worrell Corporation Foundation, based in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, by the Edward H. and Jeannie Arnold Foundation, and by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business. Behind the Headlines is also supported as a public service by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Visit pahighwayinfo.org.
Hi, welcome back to this segment of Behind the Headlines. On this segment, Maura and I are happy to welcome Ken Mash. Ken is the president of APSCUF, the statewide union of faculty from the 14 universities. And I, as full disclosure, I'm a member of this organization as well. Maura is not.
I'm not. Welcome, Ken.
It's nice to have you back, Ken.
Thanks.
Ken, I have to put a note in here regarding your career. You're going to be president of APSCUF for how much longer?
Well, I've been president for 6 years, so at the end of May, I'll be done.
You know, when you're done with your tenure, we're going to put a picture of you up at the beginning of your tenure and at the end of your tenure, like we do with the presidents, and see how they age.
You will definitely see the aging.
That's just mean.
No, Ken Maura has gotten great accolades and has really done a fabulous job in the minds of almost everyone of every stripe across Pennsylvania. And I think the Commonwealth is very fortunate to have you in this position, Ken. And one of the things we want to talk to you about is something that you've created along with the new management of the state system and the chancellor, is there's been a whole new mood created, a whole new environment for communication and for a negotiation. I don't know if you'd like to talk about that or not, but it's remarkable, and it's something that states should look at from across the union.
Right. Well, I actually give our members all the credit in the world, and I think you have to go back to 2016 and the time periods before that, because things got very confrontational with our relationship with the state system. And of course, it's odd to say that because we are part of the state system. The faculty are a major part of the state system. But, you know, when they did go on strike, we went on strike in 2016. And I think
it was the first strike ever.
Yeah, it was our first and hopefully the last strike that we will ever have. But we went on strike for 3 days, and I think that was really our members saying enough is enough of this confrontational relationship. And to the credit of the new chair of the board, Cynthia Shapira, and the new chancellor, Dan Greenstein, I think that they understood that if we're going to make progress as a system, if our university is going to be the best that they could possibly be, we have to change that relationship. And we really need to be pulling in the same direction as much as we possibly can. So there's always opportunities, and there's always opportunities to work together, but I mean, it's always going to be the case that there's going to be disagreements. It's how you deal with those disagreements that really matter. And I think that I give all the credit to Cynthia and to Dan Greenstein, and but mostly to our members who are willing to make that stand.
So one of the issues you've come on and talked to us a lot about over the years has been the funding issue. Are you all pulling in the same direction on that?
Well, yeah. We may not have the same prescription about
right.
how that should
how to
be
get
dealt
there.
with.
Yeah.
But I think it's clear that they do care about public higher education. They have a plan where they're requesting substantial money comparative to the years before, the last couple of years, which is necessary for us to undergo aspects of the redesign of our universities and our system. But from our perspective, it doesn't go far enough. We are in a crisis. Nobody recognizes it. It seems to me we've been screaming about it, and we feel like we're sort of alone in yelling about it. But this is a real crisis. We have students, with 30,000 plus debt graduating from our universities. There's something like $68 billion of combined debt in Pennsylvania. We're in a situation where even seniors now who have co-signed loans are getting on the hook, and we've seen like a 50% increase in the number of seniors who are struggling with these loans since from 2012 to 2017. It's a miserable situation, and we are hurting a generation of people who are graduating with this debt, and they are not able to do the things that other generations have done before because they're handing all their money over to the banks. And the Commonwealth is suffering because of it too, because that money otherwise that they're making in their initial years, that should be the years when you have the most disposable income, you would be returning it to the economy.
Yeah.
Right? And because of the lack of funding, the costs have gone up, So what we see is we do have declining enrollment, and yes, there's been a decline in the high school graduate population, but what we see substantially is a decline from those students in the lower economic categories. They're less likely to be attending universities at all. And, that does not bode well for our future if we're going to be planning to, meet what's required in the 21st century and to bring quality employers into this Commonwealth. We need a highly educated populace here in Pennsylvania. And everyone is going to suffer for it. So, we're hurting these students. We're making it harder for them to go at all. If you go, you're burdened with ridiculous debt. And nobody seems to really be taking it seriously. And I don't think they will take it seriously until this generation is in charge. That's being punished at this point, and they're the ones who are making the calls and making the priorities decisions. And I don't think that we should expect that they're going to be looking after us when we've turned a blind eye towards them as they're going through the university.
So one of the things that I find most remarkable is that the numbers don't lie. I mean, right in black and white, you can see that the funding for education has not even back to where it was 10 years ago. That we fall behind on per capita spending on per student, from the national average. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are a whole host of numbers that tell you that this is not a good situation. How do you think we can get the attention of the decision makers to turn this around, or can it be turned around?
Yeah. So I mean, I want to reiterate some of the points that you made here, because we're not where we were 10 years. That's not even accounting for inflation. Like,
right.
We're just getting funded at the level of 10, 15 years ago right now. And on every single measure of funding and support for public education, Pennsylvania is 47, 48, 49, 50, in one instance 51. Okay.
We're not even in the middle of the pack.
No, we're not even in the middle of the pack.
Bottom.
If we were at the average, right, our students would be like cutting off like 17 grand in debt.
Oh, wow.
I mean, from what they're paying right now. It is ridiculously awful. But the bottom line, this is a public policy choice. There's no way around it. It's not like the information isn't out there. It's out there for every legislator to see. And we're getting past the time where people can just shrug their shoulders and say, what can be done? We know what can be done. You could start properly funding public higher education, because it has a ripple effect for student debt. Yeah. It has a ripple effect even for students who are attending private universities. When the public universities are becoming more expensive, obviously that's less pressure on the privates to be less expensive too.
Is there an argument against providing the funding, or is it just sort of an apathy or, not willing to tackle issue? Why is it not being funded?
Well, with all funding issues, it comes down to, the question that you'll get back is, where are we going to get the money? All right, well, let's assume that was a fair argument in the last few years. We're putting money in the rainy day fund now. Our revenues are exceeding expectations right now. We're running out of excuses about why we're turning our backs on young people, and not just young people, even people who have partially completed degrees who may want to go back to college and finish their degree so that they can get a better job. There is simply no excuse at this point, and I am concerned also when I hear, that there's going to be a commission.
There is a commission.
There is a higher ed funding commission, but they're not interested in talking about the money side of it. They want to talk about how the money is allocated among higher education.
That's what they're doing?
Well, that's what I have heard so far, and that's really just, let's talk about rearranging the deck chairs on the deck of the Titanic.
Yeah.
Ken is being a gentleman. Ken is being very, very nice to historical figures. I would say that perhaps that there should be some credit, no lack of credit. There should be some emphasis given to the line of chancellors we've had since Jim McCormick. between Jim McCormick and the present chancellor, we've had perhaps less than stellar chancellors. Would that be fair, Ken? And you don't have to say anything. I'll say it. And we've had less than stellar lobbyists. State government and national government respond to excellent lobbyists. The best lobbyists generally get what they want out of the legislature, whether it be at the national level or the state level. And you find we've not necessarily had the crack lobbyists working for us at the state system. I'm not saying that about the present system, present group, but prior to that. And I don't know if that can add up to the fact that we haven't had leadership that's been able to go out there and correct this situation, Ken. Is that fair to say?
It's somewhat fair. I mean, the government agencies are not allowed to lobby; they educate, and so we'll just start with that. We'll start with that. I think we've had some chancellors. I don't want to make a blanket statement because I think there were some good qualities about each one of them.
Well, everyone has some good qualities, sure.
I think unlike Jim McCormick, who you mentioned, who was the first chancellor of the state system, and unlike the current chancellor right now, you didn't really always get the impression that they just thought that public higher education was extremely important not just for the students that they're being served, but for the entire Commonwealth. And I think that
attitude
has to start permeating the legislature, and the governor has to hear it too. The governor started off by restoring the cuts in his first year. He ran into battles with the legislature in the second year, but we have not seen that progression to even start to restore let alone inflation or anything else. In 2011, there was an 18% cut to the budget. We've really never recovered since. And right now, our universities are in trouble. And you can't simply say, do a better job, fix it, or close them down.
You can't rearrange the deck chairs.
You can't, and you can't say close them down. Closing them down means closing out opportunities for students who need those universities the most.
And those universities are economic generators for those areas of the state. And it would be nice for state government to have greater recognition of that over time, I think. And we're out of time. Ken, we'll schedule you. As soon as the show is over, we want to schedule you again.
We'll be back. Hope we see you before you're gone for good.
I'm sure that'll happen.
Absolutely. Okay. We're going to have that picture-by-picture comparison. And we hope that you'll be back for it next week. We'll see you again on Behind the Headlines. Tune in.